You tell a story like, I forget what you're talking about, like who was growing the best beard, or more.
Dylan, my drummer.
Yes.
From the video portion, very robust.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We chose this date because you were just coming back from Europe. So talk about traveling, all the opportunities to do that. I mean, overseas. I mean, just being from Youngstown, writing songs like you just said in your bedroom.
Yeah, it's great. It's been awesome. So many like little things become bigger things as you go, and that's kind of, I guess, with the grassroots thing, that's kind of been it. I just started off really liking songwriting, and then I fell in love with the idea of connecting with people through the music. So, when you tour, you meet people on the road, and there's something about that you only get through art, And so anyway, so that little thing grows into a little bit bigger thing, and eventually you meet other artists on the way. And so I met a really good buddy of mine, Matt Brown, who's a singer-songwriter like me, and he's from the West Coast, and he's been to Europe a couple times. So he and I, when we tour together, we play on stage at the same time. And so like he'll play one of his songs and I'll kind of like sing harmonies or like play a little guitar to back him up, and then vice versa. And so we were, he'd done the Europe thing a couple times. He was looking for a new way to go back, and I was looking to go to Europe. So I was like, hey, why don't we do this together? This can work out great. So we booked it like that through an awesome agency called Roland Music that they're just awesome over there, and they brought us out, and so it was cool. I was terrified. I've never been across the ocean or anything. So, and getting there was this nightmare of delays, and I was worried that I missed my first show, and so it was just crazy. But once it was there, it was great. Germany is awesome, and I guess I didn't really know what to expect, and I didn't. It was never on. To be honest, it was never on my like bucket list of countries to hit.
Yeah.
But this tour was Germany and Austria, and I'm so glad that I've been there. It totally should have been on my list. It's beautiful. The thing that I've never seen that many castles, or knew that there were. I thought like there were like maybe 10 castles total in Europe, and there are like 10 on a 3-hour drive in Germany. They're everywhere. There's so many castles. Toward the end of the trip, I was like, oh, there's another one, and like Matt wouldn't even look up, or I'd be like, yeah, I'm sure it's nice. Like there's just so many. So like there's just cool things that are like hundreds of years older than the United States over there, that like just being there is exciting to see it. And the people are cool. It's a totally different vibe. We were talking about like the banter and talking between songs, and like because of the language barrier, I immediately felt like neutered from the first show, because I was like, oh man, half of my show is me running my mouth. So it was just kind of different. When I did talk, I would say things like 2 or 3 different ways. So I'd be like, I flew over here on Friday, and I got in on Friday. I just kind of like say things a couple ways, hoping that one of those ways, because the difference in Europe is like everybody speaks a little English, or it seems like everybody does. So, but you never know how much English is going to translate, and certainly my sarcastic, attitude in general doesn't fly the same way. So it was kind of a learning curve with that. But by the second half of the tour, I felt like I was figuring out how to kind of breach that challenge, but people were super friendly and receptive, and it was funny going over there. I was worried about the stigma of being like the dumb American, I don't know the language, I can't even open the doors the right way. Every door over there looks like a pull, and it's a push. I think I'm getting that right. Like you just kind of going at a door, you're like, oh, that's a pull door. And it's like it's the opposite every time.
You go in with confidence, and you're like, oh, wrong.
Like too many people saw me struggle with the door that I knew like I just wasn't, coming in with the same kind of confidence. And then, but the funny thing is, it seemed like so many Germans the conversation with me would be like, we're sorry we're so serious, And everybody kind of has their own stigma that they're worried about, or that, has their own insecurity.
Sure.
And it was funny, it's like everyone was kind of trying to compensate. And by the end, I realized like, it wasn't, no one was judging you, everyone was worried about being judged, and it kind of, I think it was like its own icebreaker in a sense. So I would just get up and kind of say all that right off the bat, and then it seemed to work. It seemed to kind of create more of a vibe that was relaxed. So It was great though. It was a great opportunity. A lot of small rooms and listening room environments, and really great.
What other opportunities do you think in general are there for music? Because I mean,
Music in general?
yeah, just in general, because maybe like the musicians who have been on this show, like they might not be selling out concerts, but they also might be like in the running to accompany a book or something. There's so many ways that it can be used. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, when we think of musicians, I think we typically think like they sell CDs and T-shirts and they play at venues, which is still definitely the lifeblood. And if you're a musician, so one thing you can always do is like hustle gigs and get on the road. And you can always, if you can front the money to print some CDs and do some T-shirts, that's always the way to go, and it's always a part of the program, I think. Another big avenue for music is they call it like sync or licensing, synchronization. Yeah. So you get your songs, in a movie or on a TV show or in a commercial, and I've had a little bit of luck with that, and that's been a good way to kind of keep an income stream going and keep you afloat as you're on the road. It helps pay the bills, and
gotta love that passive income.
Yeah,
the best kind of income.
Yeah, amen. Mailbox money. I have some friends who have gotten lucky enough to either like they've got like the title track for a TV show, or they just have enough like TV show movie stuff where they're collecting their rent passively. It's just mailbox money, man, and that's a nice thing. I do not have that. I would love that. I'm very interested in it.
Yes.
But yeah. So, a few things here and there. But that's another way that music is especially now. It seems more and more that world of like sync and licensing is becoming a thing for our artists, and getting your music used in other media has been big. The big debate that you always hear about is the Spotify, Pandora, like all the digital streaming stuff, and how that's affected artists. And it is a challenge. I think the best thing that we can do as artists is to embrace it, because the market is always going to do what the consumer likes. And I mean, as a consumer, as a listener myself, like Spotify is so convenient, and all those avenues, when you do an Apple Music or whatever, they just make sense as a listener. And so I think the best thing to do is, and what I'm trying to do, is to figure out how to still make that work and survive without the CD income, and that recorded music has changed. How do I change the way I release music and use recorded music to continue a career? And so I'm interested to see where things are going to go in the next couple of years with it. But in the meantime, just trying to see what successful artists are doing, and then to kind of curb that, and also kind of figure out my own plan amidst all of it. But
do you have any standout live show stories? Anything that really stands out? I'm always curious.
I play on this music festival cruise called the Rock Boat, and it's a really cool community of music fans, and I feel like they're like the last bastion of like rock and roll enthusiasts and stuff. And so it's cool. It's a cruise ship done by a company called Six Men, and they throw these awesome festival cruises, and it's like a music festival on a cruise. And it's cool because like when you go, you're totally in this like the audience is everyone is invested in those days of music. There's not a lot of distraction from music in it, so it's a really cool environment, and it's fun to be a part of. And it just like it just becomes like an opportunity to mess around. So I've like done all kinds of crazy things, dressed up, in a tutu. I had like a SWAT uniform with a tutu on in front of like 2,000 people. That was exciting for me personally. It was a really kind of pushing the envelope for me. I juggled some oranges one time and took like bites of them during my friend's Melodyne during their rock show, and like spit the oranges up in the air, and that was like way out of my element for me. In a smaller community, or kind of like a derivative of that world, is another event called Rock by the Sea, which I'm actually going down to do in a couple weeks here. And it's a charity music festival down in Florida, and it's a similar kind of world of rock and roll fans. And last year I had my band with me, and we did a PowerPoint presentation. When I was in college, I did a presentation called Fascinating Fishes, and it was I just picked some of my favorite aquatic creatures and put it together in a PowerPoint speech for a speech class. And I used it for a couple other classes, and then I found it on my computer like weeks before Rock by the Sea last year, and I was like, okay, we got to get projector and like a a drop-down screen, and we'll just integrate this into our show, Rock by the Sea.
Yeah.
And that was really fun and rewarding for me personally. I don't know if the audience really enjoyed it, but I talked about these fish, and I kind of got to relive just the exciting parts about like the electromagnetic field put forth by the elephant-nosed fish, for example, or the speeds of a sailfish, in the water. So it was exciting. That's fun. But I just like to goof around. So so many of my songs are like real personal, serious tunes that I feel like it's like my way of handling the intensity of that. Sometimes it's by like being like just a goof, and so I have a good time with it. But,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So that way, it's got to feel good, because if the musician thing, just starts to slow down, you could go into performance art, marine biology. You got it, man. You are a renaissance.
I'm sure
man.
none of those communities would ever have me, but I love to think that that's a possibility. Yeah, that'd be great.